You don't have that to fall back on. So I think it's, to your point, it's dangerous waters for them. But I also, I think too, let's face it, most musicians and artists and members of the media are very, very liberal. I don't think that's a surprise when we hear a liberal comment from someone in the media or someone from any type of artistic background.
Typically, yeah, that's true.
So I don't know how much weight you give it personally. Maybe the younger generation doesn't know any better. I don't know. But to his point, I think Gene is just simply saying, let's talk about the music. Let's listen to the music. And if that's his story, it goes back to the very first episode we did. Because right when we were doing the very first episode, if you recall, Phil and Samo had just talked about, or just that whole story had broken.
Yeah, the whole white power thing.
Yeah, exactly. And we decided to stay away from that.
Sure.
For this very reason. So, that being said, I have to kind of agree with him. I'm not saying they shouldn't believe a certain thing, and I'm not saying they should feel as though their First Amendment rights are oppressed, because they're not. But to use that weight, that political weight that you have because you are a star or whatever you are, I think can be misused. And
no, it can be. I mean, and let's, this isn't metal, but, it's a famous thing where, Michael Jordan, was incredibly, still to this day, the best basketball player who ever lived, incredibly popular. The guy hasn't played in how long, and yet he's still the most famous basketball player on the planet still. And he had merchandise and you name it. The guy has just made a ton of money. And, as an African-American here in the United States, there was a lot of pressure of a very successful and wealthy and, very famous black man in America to speak out more about, things going on in black communities around the country. And his famous saying was, well, white people buy shoes too, so no thanks. Which is his way of saying, yeah, not a good business decision. I'm staying out of all that crap.
Exactly.
And, say what you want. And there's a lot of people here in America who are like, oh, dude, you could have said something. You're a powerful voice. And he's like, yeah, but that's a bad business decision. And yeah, I'm good. And you look at recently, again, we're not even talking metal right now, but, Michael Jordan, with the whole Black Lives Matter movement happening here in the United States, gave a portion of money to the Black Lives Matter movement and a portion of money to the police. And it pissed everybody off. So you can't win. You know what I mean? Like, he gives money to the police and the Black Lives Matter people are pissed off. He gives money to the Black Lives Matter people and the police are pissed off. So what do you want from Michael? So he's better off just not saying anything anymore, which, you got your wish. He got involved. He was on both sides of the fence, and now everyone's pissed off about it. So Michael will then go back to his cave and not say anything about any issue whatsoever and just sell a bunch of merchandise that you'll buy for hundreds of dollars. Thank you very much.
Well, speaking of selling a lot of merchandise and someone who just is constantly a media whore, let's talk about Bret Michaels for a minute.
So we go from media whore Gene Simmons to media whore Bret Michaels.
Yeah, well, there's a theme here. And
lots of whores. It's a house of whores.
It is a house of whores. But recently Bret Michaels was asked about should Poison be considered for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, before we jump into that, Jason, of course, I grew up with Poison. We've talked about my wheelhouse before, from the ages of 13 to 20.
Right.
They were in my wheelhouse at that time. So they were that quintessential glam band, radio friendly, MTV friendly, good musicianship. Let's face it, they did write some nice songs. But from someone from the outside looking in, someone who came behind me by 7 or 8 years, What do you think of Poison? Do they belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh, that's a good another man. Biv coming up with the news that's not news, but just good conversation. I've always looked at Remember you said that Fate's Warning to you was the poor man's Dream Theater?
Yes.
I always felt that Poison was a poor man's Motley Crue. Like, so many people lumped the two bands together, and you're making a big mistake if you do, because Poison's nowhere freaking close to Motley Crue, in my opinion.
I'll agree with that.
So, and yes, they did write some good stuff. In my world, I would say no. But we also are talking the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, who has put just absolute sham artists in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in place of bands who should really frickin' be there in the first place.
It's funny you should mention because
it wouldn't surprise me that Poison will be like a first ballot Hall of Fame band next time the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame says, oh, absolutely. Yeah, Poison, welcome in. Meanwhile, you have bands like, last I checked, I think Boston still isn't in the Hall of Fame. Foreigner's not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, say what you want, but are you kidding me? Like those guys, your late 70s, early 80s arena rock Scorpions like bands, good luck seeing them in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But yeah, we'll put Poison in there right away. Guarantee you they make it and they shouldn't.
Well, according to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame criteria,
they have a criteria that's laughable. Well, anyway, go ahead.
Well, okay, yeah, I agree. But one of the hard and fast criteria is that you're not even eligible until it's been 25 years since your first release.
Okay? So it'd still be when's the last time Poison released an album, though?
No, so from your first release.
Oh, from your first release. Oh, yeah. Well, then they're right there.
No, they've made it totally.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, well, what were they? I mean, when were they official? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea when they first released their first album.
Okay, well, before I jump into Poison.
Yeah.
About that, let's talk about Kiss.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, according to their criteria, they would have been eligible in 1999. They didn't even get their first nomination until 2009.
That's absurd. And you could say whatever you want about Kiss, but that is, if you're a sports fan like Biv and I are, that's like, that's like...
Well, I'm not done there. They didn't even get in until 2014.
Well, I know that. But what I'm saying is that's... when you talk like the Baseball Hall of Fame is what you would call like a first ballot Hall of Famer, like a guy who's an absolute.
It's Kiss. Yeah.
Brett Favre in the NFL Hall of Fame. Like the first year he's eligible, he's in the Hall of Fame. Why? Because he's Brett frickin' Favre. That's why.
And by the way, folks, Jason is a diehard Bears fan.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So
and I
for
hate
him
the Packers.
to say that about Brett Favre is a huge deal.
Because Brett Favre was an amazing quarterback who, without question, is in the Football Hall of Fame. Without a question. So in 1999, Kiss's ass should have been in the Hall of Fame. Period. End of story. It shouldn't even been a vote. It should have been like, hey, it's another it's 1996. It's another 3 years before we could put Kiss in the Hall of Fame. Like that's what the conversation should have been. Like, you should have been counting down the years until you could have put them in. It's insane.
Oh, it is insane. Speaking of insane, so, we always follow Iron Maiden here on the show. We try to. And, with Bruce Dickinson, oftentimes we agree with him, sometimes we don't. If you go back and listen to all the episodes of the show, you'll know this. There are times when we're totally in agreement with him, and there's times of, endangered sea turtles that we clown on him.
True.
Well, Bruce, in a recent interview, said that people still pay for music only in different ways. And he was talking about merchandise, T-shirts, things like that at shows, and occasional CDs and whatnot, and said he didn't understand what the whole hubbub was about, why people couldn't make money anymore. Well, Bruce, first of all, his thing was people still pay for music, but only in different ways now.
No, they don't, Bruce. Stop.
No, they don't. No, if you're Iron Maiden, they do.
Yeah, not even then. Look, I've been to more Maiden shows than, well, I shouldn't say that anybody I know, because I'm sure there's people listening to the shows like, screw you, dude. I was at the Power Slave tour in '84, dude. What do you know? I'm just saying I've been to Maiden probably 10 times. And I can tell you in interviews and concerts, what have you, Iron Maiden Bruce Dickinson himself has said many times, listen, if very similar to what Dream Theater did back in their early days of, bootlegs and whatnot, like record what you want, share what you want, download what you want. We don't give a shit. You want to know why? Because you're here paying $75 a seat to see Iron Maiden live and in concert and selling out arenas all over the world every single time we come through. So we don't give a shit. Enjoy the music. Have fun. I mean, they've been a very, I guess, progressive band when it comes to downloading or streaming our stuff. They care less, or they couldn't care less, I should say. Which, is interesting in today's climate, but we've talked about this in the show before. That's because they can. You know what I mean? I mean, when you have the merchandise you do, when you have the tours you do, dude, who cares if anyone buys any album you do anymore, honestly? So to say that you can still make music or money off of music, you can kind of, but it's pretty damn hard in comparison to how it used to be before when most people feel. And, let me quote Kim Olsen from Anubis Gate, who's on the show before, saying, when we are living in a environment of we expect music to be free, tell me again how that, tell me how, Bruce, you make money off of it then, if that's usually people's expectation. Good luck with that.
Well, and because they were an established artist well before Napster.
Correct.
They're able to do that. But take a band like, Imminent Sonic Destruction, who we've talked about earlier.
And we will later.
Yeah, exactly. So how can we, how could someone like them make any money whatsoever to support their own tour? It used to be the tour supported the album. Now it's like the tour is the only way you make money at all. There's no money in the album. I mean, by the time they pay recording costs and duplication costs and paying the engineer and the mixer and all that, there's no money in that. It's all about the merchandise. So, but one of your favorite bands, Jason, at least historically, has been In Flames.
Yeah.
And I know they have a new CD coming out November 11th. It's their 12th studio release. You aware of that? 12.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been with them since, well, I can't say since day one, but if
early.
You are an In Flames fan, I was with them the Horacle days, which was the first album I had picked up of theirs. And Colony, in fact, had just come out a month before I got into In Flames, if that gives you any idea. So this would be late 90s, maybe? Like 99, I want to say. 98, 99. That's about when I got into him. So it's been a while, 18 years probably.
Well, I know you were pretty moist in the ass over him in 2000.
And that moistness has dried up considerably over the years to the point where it's a desert.
Well, no, I know. You've told me. So the new CD, Battles, comes out November 11th. And they have a new producer for this one, Howard Benson, who also did Motorhead, Body Count, and Sepultura. So what I really found interesting about this particular article was that when I read this and I looked over it, Howard was really interested in how they wanted to do it. He wanted to hear what it is they had to say, what it is they wanted to do.